Headlines at 4 p.m. SEBI tightens the noose around Subrata Roy, moves the Supreme Court seeking permission to arrest the Sahara Group chairman. SEBI also wants Roy to deposit the passport with the Supreme Court and not leave the country without the top court's nod. ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank and Axis Bank tank as the government and regulators begin probe into their alleged role in money laundering. The aggregate market capitalization of these three banks erode by over 7,000 crores. Reliance Digital and the Sun Group are in preliminary talks to merge their DTH businesses. Sources tell ET Now that the Sun Group is likely to own a majority stake in the merged entity. The Telecom Department cracks the whip on telcos for 3G roaming pact, slaps a 500 crore penalty on Idea Cellular, while Bharti gets a 350 crore notice. Ratan Tata turns bullish on growth, says 7% growth rate is possible in the next couple of years, also gives the finance minister a pat on the back, says his moderate budget has managed to revive investor sentiment. India talks tough. Parliament passes the resolution countering Pakistan's motion on Afzal Guru. Pakistan's National Assembly's motion has condemned the hanging of the Parliament attack convict Afzal Guru. Very good afternoon and welcome to Business Day. I'm Sonali Krishna. Now, in an unprecedented move, SEBI today moved the Supreme Court seeking the nod to arrest Sahara head honcho Subrata Roy for failing to deposit more than 20,000 crore rupees with the market regulator. For more exclusive details on this, we're joined by Ashwin Mohan. Ashwin standing by. Ashwin, this is a really huge development. You have a copy of the SEBI petition. Tell us what it says.
That's right, Sonali. We have an exclusive copy of the petition that SEBI filed just a few hours ago at the Supreme Court. And this is definitely the biggest development that has happened in this ongoing legal tussle between SEBI and the Sahara Group. It's a bombshell that SEBI has dropped on Subrata Roy, because earlier today, what I understand from sources is that they have moved the Supreme Court, seeking a nod from the Supreme Court, in fact, to arrest and to detain Subrata Roy and two other directors in civil prison. So this is quite unprecedented. I understand from legal experts that such a move has not been done by the regulator in any case in its previous past. So therefore, this is definitely big bad news coming in for Subrata Roy. That's not all. In fact, SEBI also wants permission from the Supreme Court to direct Subrata Roy to deposit his passport with the Supreme Court. And very clearly, the SEBI plea says that Subrata Roy should not be allowed to leave the country without the Supreme Court's permission. That's not all, Sonali. We also have details which come as bad news for other directors of SEBI. We also have two other directors, namely Ashok Roy Chaudhary and Ravi S. Dubey. SEBI has also sought permission from the Supreme Court to arrest them and detain them. That's not all. There's also a pointer which is very important. This is something that has never come before in the public domain. SEBI has also pointed out that they had sent around 7,587 notices to investors of Sahara, but they've all gone undelivered. So therefore, that seems to have been the trigger. Subrata Roy and Sahara Group not complying with the Supreme Court order, which had asked him to refund more than 20,000 crores to investors. SEBI has, of course, has in fact taken the biggest move possible by filing this application today, and we'll have to wait and watch to see whether or not the Apex Court in fact agrees to SEBI's demands once this case comes up for hearing, and that will happen sometime in early April.
Well, that's some serious bad news for the Sahara Group, and of course we'll stay on top of that story. Ashwin Mohan, thank you so much for joining us. Now, a day after Cobra Post expose alleged that ICICI Bank, Axis Bank and HDFC Bank indulged in money laundering, shares of these lenders remained under pressure. ICICI Bank ended the day down 4%. Axis and HDFC Bank also ended the day in the red. For the day, the bank Nifty was down 1.7% and for the week down nearly 3%. Now, sources say these banks are now seeking time to complete investigations and present their report to the government. Let's go across to Mrinalini Krishna, who joins us from the capital. Mrinalini, good to have you on the show. Tell us, how much time have banks sought, and will the government give them that time?
Well, what we are being given to understand from sources is that the three private sector banks, that's ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank and Axis Bank, allegations against which were made for money laundering just yesterday, have sought a time of 2 weeks to complete their internal investigation in the matter and submit the report to the government. However, we are being given to understand that the government is yet to take a call on whether these 2 weeks should be granted to these three banks to complete their investigation. In fact, the Finance Ministry could take that call as early as today. Now, the thinking really within the government, as we are being given to understand, is that they are worried that these irregularities, if any, how did they go unnoticed in the larger system in spite of there being many checks and balances. Apart from that, of course, they are worried if the system itself by design is encouraging these malpractices. Of course, the government is not taking these serious allegations that have been made against three of the biggest private sector banks in the country lightly. The banking secretary who spoke to ET Now yesterday said that if these allegations are proven, then the government is going to come down heavily on the offenders. So these are serious allegations of money laundering and violation of know your client norms that the government is looking at, and they will be taking a call on whether the banks should be given time to these 2 weeks that they are seeking to complete the probe.
Right. Thank you for all that information, Mrinalini. And now on to the Lal Street. It's a poor end to the trading week as the Nifty ends well below the 5,900 mark, while the Sensex sheds nearly 150 points. Bank stocks take a beating in trading, as do other rate sensitives like autos and real estate. Tanveer Gill joins us with all the trading action. Over to you, Tanveer.
Well, thanks very much for that. It was a disappointing session for the market and a disappointing week, so we reversed the gains that we made in last week's session, down about 1.5% for the benchmark indices, and for the broader markets the cut was deeper, especially for the small cap index, which closed the week with a 2.5% loss. In terms of stock specific activity for the index, the trade was divided between PSU banks as well as private sector banks, given the money laundering issue that's being a bit of an overhang really for stocks such as ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank. They were under a bit of pressure. On the gaining side, however, SBI and Punjab National Bank over the last two sessions have been seeing a good traction. Aside of that, onto the losing side, there has been a lot of pressure on some of the index heavyweights. Reliance broke below the 850 mark in today's session. Some of the cyclical names, engineering stocks, L&T, BHEL, the price and volume activity there was also heightened. Like I pointed out, the oil and energy story also looked a bit weak. To the broader markets, and again very stock specific, Nalco on the offer for sale being undersubscribed, closed at a 52-week low. There were a whole host of stocks such as Shrey Infra and Amtech, Auto Amtech India. They succumbed to selling pressure and deep cuts coming in for these counters in the dying minutes of trade. But some stocks such as Jubilant FoodWorks as well as Acare held out in the session. So again, very stock specific, and of course the banks, all of the banking stocks, as the Bank Nifty closed 2.5% lower, you had the mid-tier banking names also succumbing in trade. Remains to be seen whether we can pick it up from here and defend the 5,900 mark once again in the coming week.
Oh, thanks for that, Tanveer. Let's move on. An auction of 5% stake in Nalco was fully covered despite a 10% discount at Thursday's closing price. The response of the OFS has been lukewarm. Bids came in for 15.69 crore shares versus 12.8 crore shares that were offered. Sources say PSU banks bid aggressively for this offer and interest from FIs has been poor. LIC bid for 7.5 crore shares. What will be the leading indicators for the markets going forward? Let's hear out our expert voices.
I think during the period that I expect inflation, interest rates and current account deficit to come down, I don't expect a big improvement in corporate earnings. I think corporate earnings will be a lagging indicator. The indicators to watch will be current account deficit and whether there's a thrust to the investment cycle. These are the two things we will use as leading indicators. Equity is not an asset class which you invest when everything is good. You invest actually when there are enough problems, and therefore these are times to actually consider investing in equities and slowly increase the asset allocation in equities.
RBI will continue on gradual reduction in interest rates. It will be phased out. We don't expect to see any sudden drops. What will happen on next Tuesday is anybody's guess, but the market is pricing in a 25 basis points cut anyhow. The Indian markets actually will ride on the back of EPS growth, and our expectation is that EPS growth over the next 2 years should be anywhere between 12 to 13% compounded.
Let's take it straight to an ET Now exclusive. Less than 6 months after the digitization drive kicked in, Reliance Digital and Sun DTH are in talks to consolidate their DTH businesses. Nisha Podar is here with this exclusive. Nisha, good to have you on the show. Fill us in and do tell us at what stage this deal is really in.
At a nascent stage right now, Sonali, and what I gather is that two large media houses and the promoters have actually met for a merger talk in the DTH business, and it is Kalanidhi Maran and Anil Ambani who have had a chat on the merger of their DTH business, which are Reliance Digital TV as well as Sun DTH. Now, Reliance Digital TV falls under the listed company Reliance Communications, while the Sun DTH is under the group company Sun Group. Now, what they're really talking about is consolidation at this point, and both the companies to come together to merge. And what I also gather is that Reliance Communications really doesn't want a controlling stake or a role in this particular business. In fact, Sun Group is the one which will be driving the business, and after the merger, it will be really expanding. As far as Reliance Communications is concerned, it is expected to hold less than 26% in the merger, while Sun Group is expected to have a majority stake in this. Now, otherwise, the valuation, swap ratio, deal contours are yet to be decided, and the two parties are in hectic negotiations at this point. And both of them, remember, these valuation talks will really depend upon the market share as well as the subscriber base. In both those counts, Reliance Communications DTH arm is almost half of that of Sun's DTH. And remember, Sun's DTH has a strong presence in southern India, and this will give them enough benefit to expand and be a much bigger, formidable player. As far as comments go, well, Sun has denied this development, while Reliance Communications has stayed away from offering any comment on this.
Fair enough. Thank you so much, Nisha Podar, for that exclusive. Let's move on. The Department of Telecom today issued 3G termination order to India's largest telco, Bharti Airtel, asking the company to stop 3G services in 10 circles. Gauri Dwivedi joins us with more details. Gauri, how big a blow is this for Bharti Airtel? And what about the other GSM biggies, Idea Cellular and Vodafone? Will the DOT snap penalties on them as well?
Absolutely, Sonali. On your second question, yes, penalties will be slapped on both the Idea Cellular and Vodafone as well. Remember, 3G roaming pacts were entered into by the three companies together. The idea really was to ensure that customers are added onto the 3G network and they can provide 3G services across country, though all of them have 3G spectrum only in select circles. And that is the pact that DOT feels is absolutely illegal. They need to have spectrum in the circle in which they offer services and add subscribers as far as the 3G services is concerned. For Bharti Airtel, the blow will be 350 crore. That's the penalty that has been slapped by the telecom department, and something that the company has to pay in the next 15 days. Services have to be stopped in the 7 circles where they do not have 3G spectrum by Sunday. They have 3 days. The notice went out today. As for Idea Cellular and Vodafone, the hit will be from 500 crore rupees for Idea Cellular and 650 crore rupees for Vodafone. Their notices are likely to be sent out shortly in the next week, 10 days.
Wow, that's some serious news. Thank you so much, Gauri, for joining us on the show. Now, the Jet Airways stock has gained almost 70% in the last 4 months, ever since the news broke that the airline is in talks with Abu Dhabi-based Etihad Airways for a stake sale. And that has gone to the market regulator worried. ET now learns that SEBI's surveillance department is examining the trading pattern in the counter. Vijay Iyer joins us with more details. Vijay?
Certainly, as you're rightly pointing out, yes, indeed sources have confirmed that SEBI's surveillance wing is keeping a close watch on the whole of the trade data pattern of Jet Airways and how the stock has behaved, say particularly in the last 2 months. To give a right perspective, we need to understand it was in the month of November when the first news came out of Etihad trying to buy a stake in Jet after the FDI rules were changed from 26% to 49%. From then till now, the stock has moved almost close up to 65%. Now, all this is happening. We are speaking about a complete corporate restructuring happening in Jet Airways, and we need to understand Jet Airways is a stock which is controlled completely by the promoter, that is Naresh Goyal, close to 80% holding on Jet Airways with limited public float stock. Now, while all this is happening, there's also news coming out that Jet Airways or the promoters would try and raise some money while opting for the OFS to meet the shareholding norms. Now, the question is, while if this was the case, then the price, which was around 380, has moved to 600. is this right on Jet Airways not to keep the stock exchanges or the shareholders at large in the loop, because they have just intimated once to the BSE about this whole deal? So in that sense, SEBI is looking, is the right corporate governance norms being followed, and is the listing agreement in that sense being followed in spirit and letter and spirit? So yes, SEBI indeed is keeping a close watch, and there will have to be some tough questions that will be asked, and answers will have to come from Jet Airways senior management officials.
Right, thanks Vijay, and of course Vijay will be on top of that story. Let's move on. Bad news for Unitech, as Enforcement Directorate is all set to send a team to London to probe what the agency alleges is the kickback from the reality major to A. Raja for the 2 licenses in 2008. ED is on a money trail of 240 crore rupees that was remitted from India to London via the Isle of Man. So Chetna Ray joins us from the capital with exclusive details. So Chetna.
Sonali, sources and Enforcement Directorate tell us that the 2G trail is now taking them to London via the Isle of Man. Sources there tell us that a team will be sent to London to probe what they are calling kickback to A. Raja from Unitech in return for the 2G licenses that they got in 2008. Sources in Enforcement Directorate tell us that this was rupees 240 crore was remitted from Unitech Limited in India to Isle of Man, which was later routed to London's Rabobank branch as investment. But the trouble is that within a year, this investment was reduced to zero, as the company claimed that they had incurred losses in that investment. Sources in Enforcement Directorate believe that this could likely be the kickback that Unitech gave to A. Raja, and that is why a team is being sent to London to get all their questions answered by the London branch of Rabobank.
Thanks so much for all that information, Suchetna. Now, Ratan Tata is confident that India will achieve a 7% growth in the next couple of years. He says that Finance Minister P. Chidambaram's budget has managed to revive investor confidence, but does caution that a lot more needs to be done. Let's hear him out.
Most recent budget has done have been very moderate, and perhaps while they're a sign of moving in the right direction, the question that one must ask is it enough, and is it too late? My own feeling is that some of the confidence in the economy amongst Indians and perhaps amongst investors is restored. But a lot more needs to be done. I think we will re-establish a 7% plus growth rate in a couple of years, driven by the fact that we've got pent-up demand in the country. But it's not going to be as attractive as it has been in the past.
And on to Motown, the country's largest car maker, Maruti Suzuki India, has appointed Kenichi Ayukawa as the new managing director and CEO in place of Shinzo Nakanishi. The new appointment would be effective from 1st of April 2013, as Mr. Nakanishi has attained the age of retirement. Maruti Suzuki's new MD, Ayukawa, has been associated with the European operations of Suzuki Motor Corporation. Remember, Nakanishi had succeeded Jagdish Khattar as the new managing director in December of 2007. And on to some technology news. Samsung has taken the battle of the smartphone straight to Apple's doorstep. The South Korean tech giant unveiled its latest smartphone, the Galaxy S4, in New York yesterday, the first time that Samsung has launched a product in the United States. The S4 boasts of a 5-inch display along with unconventional gesture control features. Simply put, the new S4 will allow you to flip pages and shuffle through songs just by gesturing with your hands. Samsung hasn't confirmed the dates of the release yet, but speculation is rife that the phone would be on sale in the second half of the year. And back home, India sent tough signals to Pakistan today. Lok Sabha Speaker Meera Kumar moved a resolution countering Pakistan's motion on Afzal Guru. Pakistan National Assembly had passed a resolution yesterday condemning the hanging of Parliament attack convict Afzal Guru and demanded that his body should be returned to his family. The strongly worded Indian resolution vehemently condemns Pakistan motion. Senior BJP leader Yashwant Sinha asked all parties to back the resolution.
It's how totally rejects the resolution passed by the National Assembly of Pakistan on March 14, 2013. The House notes that Pakistan has committed that it would not allow its territory to be used for terrorism against India, and only fulfillment of this commitment can be the basis for peaceful relations with Pakistan. The House rejects interference in the internal affairs of India.
इस बार का हमला पाकिस्तान की नेशनल असेंबली की तरफ से हुआ है। मैं आपसे करबद्ध प्रार्थना करता हूं और आपके माध्यम से सारे सदन से कि यह सदन भी एक प्रस्ताव पारित करे और सर्वसम्मति से पारित करे जिसमें कि पाकिस्तान को इसका जवाब मिले।
The House represents the soul of the people of our country, and the House felt that it was necessary that a categorical, united and a very precise statement be made to tell our counterparts across the border how we feel and how we reject what they have tried to do. I hope that they will get the message.
And with that, it's a wrap. It's an unusually busy day for a Friday, so keep it right here with ET Now. Thanks for watching.